This is J. Krishnamurti's sixth public talk in Saanen, 1964.
It seems to me that it's rather important to find out for oneself what one is seeking. The word seeking, searching, has extraordinary significance. Apart from the dictionary meaning, the act of searching, the act of seeking implies, does it not, that you are moving from the periphery to the center. And this seeking, the searching, depends upon one's temperament, environment, the pressure, the strain, the calamities and of experiences, the distresses of life, and the innumerable travail of one's existence. All these pressures force one to seek. If there was no pressure at all, if there was no challenge, a calamity, a misery, I wonder how many of us would seek anything at all. Because the searching implies, doesn't it, the going around looking. Coming round to things, going round about, finding. I looked up that word searching this morning in the dictionary. It comes from a Latin word. And the implication of that word is to go seeking, searching, asking, demanding, inquiring, probing. And I wonder what we are probing, asking, demanding, inquiring. If we could at all ever find out. Or is it so vague, fleeting, depending on circumstances, on one's temperament, one's peculiar pleasures and pains? So from the outside, you gradually move to the center according to one's own idiosyncrasies, tastes, environment, pressures. And we are everlastingly talking about seeking, searching. It's like going from shop to shop. Trying on various dresses, shirts, or whatever one does, till something fits you and you like the color of it. Then you accept it. So when we say we are seeking, we mean really experimenting with, depending upon our own particular idiosyncrasies and temperaments, experimenting with this idea and with that idea and with that concept, formula, going from one religion to another, to one teacher to another, seeking, asking, demanding. And eventually finding something that will suit you, that will be comfortable fit, cut your like and dislike. And then, if we don't like it, we turn to the Orient with all its complex ancient philosophy. Go from one school to another there. There are innumerable number of them, with their innumerable teachers and gurus, and get caught up in a little pool and think that is the everlasting reality. Or, if we don't do that, we become more ardent Catholics, more ardent particular things of our own existentialists. Oh goodness, so many things there are in the world. And it seems to me that there is neither the East nor the West. There is no, for me, an Oriental mind, or an Oriental philosophy, an Oriental theology. All theologies are immature, and all philosophies are. They are inventions of man, caught in a prison of his own making. And well established in the prison, he projects himself. He believes in something, and around that he creates an extraordinary philosophy, a theology. And the more clever he is, the more acceptable he is by the public, by the reader, by the follower. Is that what we are all doing? Seeking. You come here, spend 3 weeks or 2 weeks or whatever you like, and then you feel it isn't quite satisfactory. It doesn't give you everything that you want. So you go to some other shop, some other teacher, some other philosophy, and get a little more satisfaction there. And so you keep going till you come back next year, if you do. If you're not caught up in a little backwaters. And then we start it all over again. So I think we ought to understand this extraordinary phenomena. Not only which is so superficially exciting, not only in the West but also in the East. Going from one thing to another, seeking, asking, demanding, probing, searching. So I think we ought to be very clear in ourselves what it is we are seeking and why. And why is there a necessity to seek at all? Surely all search implies a movement from the periphery towards the center, from the circumstances to the cause, from the boundary to the very original center of existence. That is, come from the outer to the inner. And wanting to come to the inner, to find out something real, deep, vital, extraordinary, significant. We torture ourselves. We follow so many methods, systems, various forms of disciplines, which are all various forms of torture. So at the end of one's life, one is bruised. One's mind is almost crippled. Because you have played with so many things, wanting to find out how to be happy, what is truth, what is God, if there is a God, if there is something lasting, you know. And I'm afraid that is the case with most of us. Moving in from the boundary, from the periphery to the center. And thereby always struggling, torturing ourselves, conforming, imitating, following, brutalizing ourselves, our minds, our hearts, so that we have nothing left of ourselves original, true, real. Because we're always imitating, copying, following. That is our life. The greater the pressure on the periphery, the greater the pain, the greater the demands, the fury of life, the more you want to go into the deeper. Now is there a coming to the center immediately and from there flowering, and not the other way around? Do you understand my question? We have done this for many million years, from the outer to the inner. And in that process, you know what is implied, so I won't go into more details of this coming from the outer to the inner to find out what is real. Now I say to myself, how absurd all this is. Why should I torture myself? Why should I copy, imitate, follow? Is there a possibility of coming, of discovery, of being at the very center and flowering from there? And not coming the other way around. Because the other way around has no meaning, at least for me. I reject that completely. It has no meaning whatsoever or significance. I don't want to torture, follow anybody. I don't want to read a single book about any philosophy. Sharpen my mind. My mind is sufficiently sharp through torture, as it is. Through despair, through anxiety, through affection, the brutalities of life. And I don't want to follow another method, another system, another guru, another teacher, another savior. And, I don't want to do anything. So I ask myself, and I hope you will too, because I'm talking not for myself, I'm talking aloud to clarify certain things, so that you and I can commune with each other about the real thing, and not everlastingly dig, come through reaction from the outer to the inner. So I am merely putting into words what perhaps you may have thought or felt at rare moments when you are fed up with everything, with your churches, with your politicians, with your bank, with your wife, with your children, husband, with all the boredom of office and the insult of human dignity. When you have spent 30 to 40 years going to the office day after day, cooking, bearing children, one after the other, and the pleasure of it all, and the boredom, and the torture, the despair, the pettiness of all that. You must have asked yourself if there is a possibility of coming suddenly, unexpectedly to the original, to the very essence, and from there live, function, flower, act. So that you don't ever read a book. There is no philosophy, no sacred book, image, saviors, nothing. Where there is that center from which all action, all love, everything takes place. The obvious fact that we are animals, highly evolved animals, with our greed, envy, jealousy, possessiveness, fear, our fleeting pleasures, the purr of self-satisfaction, the sentimentality and the devotion, of the animal. You watch an animal, it has all these things which we have. The higher forms of apes, the anthropoid apes, have all this. They have matrimonial difficulties. They are jealous. They unite in the group, in the family. Then the tribe, and against, the whole business, just like us. As the other day a man was saying that these apes could sit at the United Nations just as well as any other human being. We are all that. All our character, our courage, our wars, our peace, our struggles spring from this background of the animal. This is an obvious fact. You don't have to dispute it with me. It is so. The biologists, the anthropologists, and all of them are saying so, if we want authorities. Now, to be free of all that, not eventually, gradually, to cut it with one fell blow and it's over. So that you have a morality, an ethic, a sense of beauty apart, totally something different from the animal. Obviously, to live together in a world, we need social behavior, a morality. But our morality, our behavior, our concept, or the formula of our daily existence is still the animal. And we don't want to acknowledge all that. We pretend because we're a little more capable, efficient. We are more human. Even the apes use instruments to catch things. They invent as they go along. This is again proved by anthropologists and biologists. So there is very little difference between them and us. We may invent machinery, go further to the moon, and so on, so on, so on. So looking at all this extraordinary activity of the animal and the extraordinary activity of a mind that wants to be secure in the animal world, and also the security inwardly, which is still the result of that animal instinct. And the desire to find something real, original, uncontaminated, innocent. And to come upon it suddenly, not cultivated, not sought after. Because beauty cannot be cultivated any more than love. You come upon it as you would come suddenly upon a view which you have never looked before. It is there in front of you, rich, full, vibrant. And you're part of it. And from there, live, act, and be. So we have sufficiently described, that's enough. Let's move further. Is it possible, without ever making an effort, without ever disciplining from the outer, controlling, compelling, imitating, all that, is it ever possible to suddenly come upon the well of life, the original spring, when once the mind has drunk at that fountain, it's lived and lives from there forever? Is that possible? You understand my question? This is not sentimental, this is not mystical, this is not something to get excited, inspired over. Nor is it something that you intuitively feel. It's none of those things. Because as long as we are animal, the other thing is not possible. With our envies, jealousies, despair, the two can't go together. So, to cut away the animal totally, at one breath, and then begin. Is that possible? I will show you how necessary, how important it is that it should be possible. Because if you admit time, that is, yesterday, today, and tomorrow, then you are caught in the process of degeneration. But there will always be tomorrow. And there will always be the yesterday which conditions the present. So the mind which is the result of centuries of time, that mind has to forget time also. You follow? It has to put away time altogether. Otherwise you are caught in the net of time, decay, sorrow, misery, the struggle, the effort to achieve, to become, to deny, to go through all that, and that leads nowhere. So, what is one to do? You understand my question? And I want to find myself immediately. Not 2 seconds or a day after tomorrow. I want to be there. I'm too impatient. I have no use for time or something to be achieved at the end of my life or 10,000 lives. It all sounds so utterly juvenile, immature. An invention of the mind in its laziness, in its despair, in its confusion. So that as I open my mind, my heart, my mind, and it is there. From there to function, to act, to live, to enjoy the beauties of the earth. Now we're going to talk about something which cannot possibly be copied, imitated. I'm going to explore and you are also with me exploring. You're not following me. Then you're lost, then you're gone. All the movement, every kind of movement, according to different varieties of temperament, all the movement from the border to the center is a positive movement. Because that movement is the search, a deliberate search, a deliberate reactionary movement towards the desire to find. And therefore discipline, copying, imitating, following, obeying, following systems and all that is a positive process. At least that's what you call positive. Just follow it. Don't argue with me. You will see how true it is as you go along. Not that I'm mesmerizing, not that we're trying to put something over you. I'm not doing propaganda at all. That's all too silly. So we see, or one sees, this positive movement. And one sees immediately the whole significance of that movement. Immediately, not leisurely, probably, inattentively, with the idea, I'll think about it tomorrow. There is no meantime. There is no, the idea of the meantime. So one sees that immediately. Therefore, the positive action ceases completely. You haven't done anything. It hasn't been a volitional act. It hasn't been an act of deliberate search and coming to a result. There is no cause. You see this thing and it is so. But the utter futility, the immaturity, the whole of that. The priests with their churches, the theologies, the inventors of ideas, all that, you brush it aside. Because you see the truth of it. You understand? And you can't see the truth if you don't see that this positive movement is still the movement of the periphery always. It will never come to the center. Because it is the movement of the boundary trying to come within, the outer trying to come within, and therefore remaining the outer all the time. So one sees that with an abnormal clarity, with a sharpness, with beauty. So, when one sees that, then one begins to understand what is the negative movement. The negative movement, which is not the opposite of the positive movement, but the negative movement of the mind that has understood this positive movement. You understand what I'm talking about? Am I explaining myself clearly? So your mind is no longer caught in the positive movement. Therefore, it is in a state of negation. It's a state of, I don't know if I can use the word negative without being misunderstood. If you misunderstand, it doesn't matter. You'll see what I mean. It's not so hot, is it? So the mind seeing the total, not fragmentary, but the total movement of this positive action, then the mind is no longer moving, is no longer acting, doing, which may be called negative. I'm using that word to indicate something, but the word negative is not that thing. Now, keep that, see that. Then from there, proceed. That is, I see that without the total comprehension of myself, without effort, without making myself into a problem, I see that if I do not understand myself totally, completely, in that negative state, the unexplored entity will enter and project. You're understanding? Look, I'll put it on the other way. Personally, I don't read a book about all this. I don't want to. It doesn't interest me. Because I see in myself the whole of mankind, not mystical. Actually, I am you. I am the world. Not a metaphorical, a symbolic, but actually. And in me is the whole treasure of the world. And I have just to understand it and to go beyond it. Because if I don't understand myself, which is part of the world, I have no raison d'être, I have no structure. I'm just a confused entity. And the more I search, I seek, I study, I follow, the more I get confused, the more I depend on teachers, on my temperament, on my desires, on my confusion, all the rest of it. So I see how important it is that I should totally understand, again without a single effort, understand myself without making a problem of it. So I see, to understand myself, I have to have a mind that is not making any positive movement to correct or not to correct. You are as I said the other day, the conscious mind and the unconscious mind are trivial things. And I have to understand the triviality and understand it immediately so that it doesn't play tricks. So that when I'm not all there and there is not complete attention, it doesn't project some image, some vision, some desire, some secret want, which again becomes a problem. You are following all this? So I see that to understand myself completely, there must be a mind that is totally uninfluenced, totally without a motive, totally without a movement. Then with that clarity of mind I can look at myself. then if you can look at yourself with that mind so completely, there is nothing more of yourself. You understand? Huh? Because as I said at the beginning, as I pointed out the significance of search, the significance of the movement going round, and if you see that whole significance of it, there is already that quality of a mind that is completely without a movement. Then that quality of mind, that state of mind can look. And when it looks, it dissolves the trivialities, which is the me. So I know now, no, I'm using the word know in the sense I see. I see the mind that is completely empty of the positive action. Then I can proceed. You understand? Then the mind can proceed. Please, we are not inventing a philosophy. For God's sake, don't translate it as the Orient and the Occident and all the tummy rot nonsense. It isn't a peculiar idiosyncrasy of the speaker. Because he happens to be born in a country where the sun is hot, makes the skin brown. And because of that heat and of that sluggishness of poverty, man goes within. And from going within, he writes philosophies, invents religions, gods, super-gods, and all the rest of it. Leave it to them. We are not talking of that. We are talking of something which is neither the east nor the west, nor personal nor impersonal. It is what is true. You understand? One has suddenly come upon this. A state of mind that is no longer driven. A state of mind that is no longer asking, demanding, seeking, wanting experience. That there is nobody to teach it. And this requires energy. Right? I mean by energy that the focusing of all attention in which there is no sense of distraction. There is no distraction. There is only inattention. Is it right? No? Good. I'm glad somebody doesn't agree. What is distraction? And is there distraction? As I am walking, moving, I look. My mind goes there, different points. And I call those distractions, if they move me, if they take me away from the main road, main center. But there is no center. There is no straight path along which I am walking. Therefore, there is no distraction. This is very important to understand. If you understand this one thing very clearly, you will find all this effort to concentrate and the conflict and all the rest of it disappears. Once you understand there is no distraction, looking at the sky, the face of a lovely child, hearing the stream go by, and the terrific noise of a jet passing overhead, and the listening to your own mind and to your own heart, observing the people, the politicians, the priests, your own demands, your own despairs. Nothing in that is from the beginning of looking at the sky and looking at yourself. There is no distraction. It's all part of one whole. And that one whole can only be seen when there is complete attention. And that complete attention is denied when you admit distraction. Oh, do see this. So you never treat anything as distraction. Nothing. Your sex, your jealousy, your anxiety, your fear, your love, your passion, nothing you look at as a distraction. Therefore, you take everything into the flame of attention. Therefore, there is nothing fragmentary. Neither politics, not the priest, not the ritual, not the... nothing. So, in the positive action, there is distraction, there is fragmentation. Where the mind has no movement, and therefore, if I may use that word, negative, there is no fragmentation of life. Then the cloud and the dust on the road the flower on the wayside, and the whisper of your own thought, all that is part of the whole. And that is can be understood only when the positive action is completely ceased. So, one sees for oneself that to come upon that center, to come upon that original thing which is the supreme, all movement of the mind must come to an end. Not through torture, not through posing it difficult, so extraordinarily difficult problems as they do in some fantastic sects, so that the mind is shocked to silence. Oh, that's again all too utterly immature. So, from the beginning, you see the truth of every movement. And you can see the truth of every movement only when the mind is completely in a state of silence, negative, quietness. And that you can do it immediately. Like stepping off the road of habit, of the positive action which man has lived with for 1,000 upon 1,000 years. Just to step off that road without any question, without any asking, without any searching. One can do it. You do it only when you see the whole movement of man. Not a particular man, but the man which is the particular, which is the whole. When you see all that with one glance, that's all you have to do. You have to do nothing else. And you are walking in freedom. And from there is action. From there you can go to the office. Thank the Lord, it has been a little cool. Will you please ask some questions about it, or there's nothing to ask?
What is maturity?
What is maturity? Are we talking about maturity? All right, sir. What is maturity? Has maturity got anything to do with age? Has maturity got anything to do with experience, with knowledge, with a clever capacity to do this or to do that? Maturity, has it anything to do with competition, with accumulation of money? So what is maturity? If it's not all that, then what is maturity? So, has maturity to do anything with time? No, don't say no. If you really, actually had no time, not the verbal time and say, yes, there is no time and intellectually agree, but actually time has no importance to you whatsoever. Not the chronological time, that has importance. But the time of achievement, the time of success, the time of conquering, the overcoming, the denying, trying to become clever, the time to grasp, become more, the time that allows comparison. If you have no time of all, then aren't you mature? That is, only the mind that is innocent is mature. Not the mind that has accumulated knowledge through 1,000 years. Knowledge has significance at a certain level and is needed at a certain level. But knowledge does not make for clarity, for innocency. There is innocency only when all conflict has come to an end. All conflict. That is, when the mind is no longer moving in any particular direction, because all direction it has understood. And therefore it remains in that state of originality, in that state of innocence, and from there it can go into the vast distance where the supreme, the measureless may be. Such a mind is the mature mind.